All right, let's roll with it.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session, Life at Amazon Web Services. We're so excited to be here today to join the We Hack at UT Dallas. We're incredibly excited. We know that you are too. This is day 2 of an amazing event. We've already sort of seen some of the projects, and we know that you guys are working incredibly hard. So we're excited beyond belief just to be here today to, again, learn, because that's what this is all about, learning from one another. And so I have the distinct privilege of being joined by colleagues who I admire, and I'm really excited to introduce them briefly. So first, I want to start with Tina, who's on my team. Tina serves as a senior program manager and has been at Amazon for 2 years. And very happy to have you here today. We also have Ben Rayner, who is a senior recruiter, and he's going to actually do a presentation momentarily. And then the star of today, it's really Grishma, who is an amazing budding technologist and a proud alumna of this great institution. So literally 2 years ago, she was in your shoes, and now she's working at Amazon Web Services, and her career is just budding. And so she's going to share a little bit about her journey. And so we are excited to be here today. Amazon Web Services, we have a deep-rooted commitment to equalize opportunity for women and those that identify as non-binary and all marginalized populations, and that's what our commitment is. And so just a quick overview of what you can expect today. So first, I'm going to do a quick interview-style chat with my colleague Grishma, so she'll talk a little bit about her journey and about some of her experiences and share some words of wisdom and some gems. And then I will have my colleague Ben do a quick overview of some of our recruitment aspects. So he'll talk about some of our roles, he'll talk about our mission, he'll talk about and answer any questions that you have about open opportunities, because our hope is that after today, you're a little bit more inspired to say, you know what, I can actually pursue a career at Amazon Web Services. We have literally hundreds of roles, and Ben will talk about them, and we hope that one day soon you'll fill them. So without further ado, let's get started with the alum. So first of all, let's talk about your journey. So did you always know you wanted to work in tech? What or who was your greatest inspiration?
I think you froze, Darrell, but we got most of that question. Maybe there was a couple follow-ups. Oh, yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry. Okay. Is the audio back?
Yes, yes.
Great. So the main question I sort of wanted to just know was, like, what actually sort of motivated you to pursue a career in technology? What was that moment? What was the inspiration? Just take us from the journey, from the moment that you graduated to sort of how did you end up here?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I definitely did not always know that I wanted to be in tech. My first really hands-on experience with working with technology and coding was in high school, and I took that computer science class that probably a lot of people in the audience have taken in high school. And that's when I kind of really got my hands dirty with coding, and I really coded basically for the first time. It was my senior year of high school, which is now it feels like late because there's a lot of younger kids coding. But that's when I got my first experience. I realized that I really liked it. I liked the problem solving, the analytical skills part of it. And I was huge on that. I knew that I liked that. I liked the math part of it. And when I got into college, I actually didn't even start off as a computer science major. I was a business major. And as I was going through my first semester of college, I started thinking a little bit more about that coding class that I'd taken back in high school. And by my second semester, I'd halfway switched over to the engineering school. And I was still taking some business classes because I was still interested in it. But that seemed like a career that I wanted to pursue. I was really missing using that kind of part of my brain that was very math heavy, very analytical heavy. And I completely switched into a CS major. And from there, as I was graduating my senior year of going to UTD, I started talking to a few people from AWS and talking to them about really a software development role, actually. and a very coding heavy computer science focused role, because I thought that's where my path would take me as a computer science student. And luckily my recruiter at the time said, you know what, there's this solutions architect role that's kind of new for people coming out of college. But I think you'd be a much better fit for that. And I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really know what it was even my first day at Amazon. All I knew is that it was customer facing, that I would get to work with some of our customers that are using AWS, which I thought was awesome. Getting to talk to customers all day long already sounded like such a great opportunity to me then. And so I kind of just gave it a shot. I was like, let's see what this solutions architect thing is about. So I did that, and now I'm very, very content and happy that I went down that path. And I think that's really important to kind of know, is that there are a lot of different roles out there for people pursuing computer science degrees, other types of engineering degrees. There's a myriad of roles that I did not know about even as I was graduating and interviewing for different roles. I was really just thinking that there was a very clear-cut path, at least in the beginning, and then maybe to get to some more customer-facing roles, I would have to get 5-10 years of experience before anyone would ever put me in front of a customer, but that's not the case.
So that's incredibly a great story. So, I know when I was in college, right, like and many of the students that are here today may relate to this, right? You may struggle in some of the STEM related fields, maybe science or technology. You're not maybe as progressive as you thought, or it may be sort of challenging. What would you say are among some of the biggest misconceptions about technology and women and those that I identify as non-binary?
I think there are obviously a lot of misconceptions. I think one of the biggest ones is that it's really hard to excel in this field or any field where you are a minority or where you're not represented in the grand scheme of technology. And I don't think that's true. I think you have to find a place where you have allies that are going to be with you, and other people that, I think all of us, we look to work at places where we see people that look like us, and we see people that have the same experiences as us. And there are places out there that will have that. There's places out there that will support you. Even if you are a minority in technology, there are places out there that will kind of give you the extra help that you might need, or not even the extra help, but give you access to things that everyone else will have access to. And I think that's really important, to find a place that is willing to do that and is supportive in that way. I think another really big misconception in technology, especially coming in as a woman, I thought I kind of had to know everything. And like you mentioned, Darrell, I am not an expert in all the classes I took in college by far. And I thought, those are my weak spots. And I thought to have a role like a solutions architect where you're talking to really smart customers, that you had to know everything and you had to know just as much as them. And I think that goes for a lot of different roles. You think you have to be an expert in every single thing. And I learned very quickly joining AWS that that's just not possible. You can't be an expert in all 170 something services that we have. That's not going to happen, especially not overnight. I've been at AWS for 2 years now, and it still hasn't happened. I'm still waiting, but I don't think it'll happen, and that's okay. And it's okay to say that you don't know. It's okay to say that in front of a customer, in front of a colleague, in front of a manager. It's okay to say that you don't know, and you have to get really comfortable doing that.
Commitment to being a lifelong learner. I think all of us who work at Amazon Web Services, we know, because technology evolves every day. And so you have to just continue to build your skills. So what advice would you give to individuals that are interested in pursuing a career in tech, but they may have doubts?
I would say understand imposter syndrome. I think that's huge. I didn't know about imposter syndrome until I came to Amazon. And for those of you who haven't heard that term, it's basically feeling like you're not supposed to be in a role that you're in, or feeling like you're not qualified, or feeling like everyone else around you is really, really smart and you just don't belong. And I knew that when I came to Amazon, I had that feeling. And I didn't know that anyone else had that feeling. I didn't know that imposter syndrome was a common term that a lot of people experienced. And once my manager kind of sat my whole team down and talked about imposter syndrome, I was like, well, that is exactly what I'm experiencing. And I can't believe that other people experience it as well. I didn't know it was that common. So I would understand imposter syndrome. And when you see yourself kind of going to that place of, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm not qualified, or maybe I shouldn't apply to this role because I don't meet 100% of the qualifications, or I got this role and I don't feel like I fit in. Everyone else around me is so smart. Be able to recognize when your brain is doing those things, understand that it's your imposter syndrome, understand that imposter syndrome is very, very common. I would be a little bit concerned about someone that had no imposter syndrome ever, and recognize yourself doing those things, recognize those tendencies, and work against them. I think you have to actively work against your imposter syndrome. I can say with 100% certainty that mine has not gone away. It's still there. It gets better. It of course gets better, but it's still there, and you have to work against those. And I think for women and non-binaries in technology, that's so important. Understanding that it's normal and recognizing it in ourselves and working against it.
Absolutely. And for the sake of time, I'll allow Ben to sort of talk about the relevant skills for the roles. But you've started your career, you're 2 years in, and of course, you have a very bright future ahead of you. So, where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years? And how did your experiences at UT Davis and then obviously at Amazon Web Services prepare you for those opportunities?
Yeah, so I think at 10 or 5 or 10 years, I can definitely see myself at Amazon. I've seen a lot of, I mean, you guys already know that we've seen a lot of our colleagues start their careers at Amazon as right out of college or even as interns and stay there for a very long time. I think Amazon, and the reason I say that is because Amazon's a place where if you are looking for a change, if you want something completely different, I think a lot of people that we've seen move from role to role, I've moved from team to team, they look inside of our organization because there's just so many opportunities. If you want to do something that's completely different, if you want to move from a tech role to a non-tech role, or move from being a solutions architect to maybe a product manager, you can do that. And there's so many opportunities internally. And I think that's where a lot of us tend to look first. I went from a role supporting enterprise customers as a solutions architect to now supporting all startups. So a completely different customer set. And that's kind of where I wanted to take my career, and I was able to. So I can see myself at Amazon. I think I would like to be in a more strategic role in 5 to 10 years where I'm having further impact to kind of the organization as a whole. I've tried to do that, and I think at Amazon it's really easy to do that as an individual contributor. You don't have to be a leader or a manager by role. You can be a leader as an individual contributor. There's so many opportunities to do so, and you can have just, I think it's crazy to see, you look at a big company sometimes and you think, how much impact can I really have there? Everything's already done for them. They've been going for so many years. What can I really do? And that's just not true, because we're always looking for new things to do. And if something's already set up, we're looking for a better way to do it. So I think there's so much growth 5, 10 years from now that I could have just here.
Wow. Such a storied career that's really just getting started. So inspirational. And, I know that you're making all the students proud. You're obviously making our team proud. And so thank you for sharing your stories. And of course, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. So we're going to quickly transition because we want to sort of talk about the open opportunities. And there's nobody better to talk about those than our senior recruiter for student programs, Ben. So Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much. Having this context, hearing from an alum, I feel is often just so powerful in making those connections. And so many of the things that you spoke about actually I'm going to highlight a little bit myself. First off, really being around there being so many opportunities, so many different types of roles and jobs at Amazon. What is sort of that one thing that stitches it all together? And the first thing I would say is that it's Amazon's mission. Our mission and everything that we do, from literally our traditional e-commerce site to AWS, is that our mission is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. What that looks like can look different, but we always end up coming back to this mission. It's the original mission that was scribbled on a napkin by Jeff Bezos as our mission and our business proposition. So this is something that we always keep in mind. And how does that actually implement itself in our day-to-day as Amazonians? And that's through something that we have called leadership principles. So Grishma mentioned that you don't have to be a leader in title to be a leader at Amazon, and we hold everyone accountable to these principles. Now, there are quite a few here, and we're not going to be able to get to all of them, but I did want to point out too that as a recruiter and as someone who's really involved with a student population, we especially look for and will be a part of every interview that we have at that level. So the first is something that Grishma mentioned as well, which is learn and be curious. Amazon is quite large. We have so many different offerings. We're always trying to do things better and smarter and more efficiently. So with that, you can never learn it all, right? So as you approach this, there's always going to be concept, whether you've been here for a month or whether you've been here for years. The second one I really want to touch on is something for students called deliver results. And oftentimes you think maybe you're a student and I have maybe an internship. And what am I really going to accomplish in about 2 months, right? What can we really get to? I wanted to confirm with you that we build this into every single role that we have, including our internships. So do know that if you do come on as a new grad or an intern at Amazon, you will have a project and a mentor and a manager to help you with that project. At the end of every single internship, you will present your project, and it is actionable and it will be real work. So know that that's built into every single role, all the way down, all the way from our internships, all the way to senior executives. So with this, I wanted to pause for a second and throw it back over to Grishma and talk a little bit more about maybe one of these two leadership principles, or maybe one that I haven't talked about that she feels is particularly important in her role.
Yeah, I think Ben, like you mentioned, learn and be curious is built into every single role at Amazon. I think learn and be curious is two parts. It's the constant want and need to learn. It's the constant, this is what I'm required to do, but I'm going to go the extra mile and learn something else. So I learn something new, and that can be about learning about a new technology or learning about something that your customer is doing. That's learn and be curious and dive deep. How am I going to get to know their use case, their architecture completely, so that I can help them in the best way that I can. And I think the other part of learn and be curious is also just willing and being open to always learning, knowing that as a solutions architect, as a lot of roles at Amazon, we are releasing new products and features every single week, if not every single month. Features, at least I think it's every single week. And knowing that and not being intimidated by that, that's okay. I think it's not expected that you know all those things. No one expects that from you, not your colleagues, not your customers, but knowing that that's something that you're going to have to keep up with and having the interest to learn those things. I think learning is one thing, but then we're adding be curious in there. And you're not learning things because you have to, you're learning things because you want to have that continuous learning. You want to always learn and be up to date, not just for yourself, but also for your customers.
Right. And as Grishma mentioned as well, when you come on board at Amazon, we want to make sure that you feel included and you have an outlet of people to chat with, not only a mentor, but also throughout our affinity groups as well. So with this, Amazon has quite a few affinity groups around different populations at Amazon or even allies of those populations. As a particular member of our Glamazon group, the thing that's always sort of surprised me is that these groups are not just there for big events or big engagements. They're there really when you have those small questions, when you can't find something, or maybe, you're a new employee and you want to find a particular resource or ask about a particular customer, something that's, very peculiar about Amazon. This is that opportunity to ask those questions, to have sort of that non-judgmental or that community around you to help guide through that. Of course, the one we really wanted to feature here was Women in Engineering, which is actually one of our oldest affinity groups, who has been around for quite some time as well. So really building that out and building communities and chapters, not only in our major areas like Seattle, but across the country and then across the world as well. Great. So with this, I wanted to highlight worldwide commercial operations. So AWS is our sponsor for today, and they have a new grad and internship postings and programs for multiple different roles. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about this function, but also more about the roles and the differences between them. So with that, as you know, we are growing quite a bit, and we're continuing to develop those capabilities with our existing customers in addition to bringing on new ones. So with that, this is really that area of the operations team. They consult and advise with those customers both pre and post sale about how to both leverage, migrate, and optimize the product. So we have 3 roles that we're really featuring today. And I wanted to explain a little bit about the differences between the two. And feel free to jump in, my colleagues as well, as you guys know this quite well and intimately. So the way I like to separate it out in my head is solutions architect is really out there front with the customer and really designing and presenting how their business can run within the cloud and how it can be optimized. So they're designing these solutions, communicating it effectively to our clients, and then, of course, designing any custom solutions around a specific need for their business. The customer solutions manager really is that person who's almost like a project and program manager across the sort of whole course of someone's relationship. Really kind of identifying the current state of that account or that relationship, and then really, quite frankly, helping to accelerate that journey into the cloud, and then, of course, accelerate them into more and more features so that we can better optimize and go from there. They collaborate quite a bit with our other teams. Now, a professional services consultant, that role is really building quite a bit of what has been designed by the solutions architects, collaborating with those other partners, and actually making sure those solutions happen post sale and really are there to help from that aspect. So, as of right now, in terms of recruiting, kind of timelines and style. We have our internships for summer 2021 posted right now. Go ahead and apply to those if you're coming back to school. Check them out. If they are of interest, go ahead and do that. We'll sort of share an opportunity on how to stay connected with us as well. Right now, we are closing out our December class. So we do have one remaining role that's available. It's our customer solutions manager. Highly recommend that if you are a December graduate or maybe an alum, that you consider that opportunity. And then our summer postings will be coming out in the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye out. If you register and sign up with us and say that you're interested, you'll receive a notice once those go live as well. So you won't be missing out on any opportunities, and you'll be the first ones to know. Great. So before I move on, anything I missed there? Did I do an all right job? Awesome. Good deal. So with that, I did want to let you know how to stay connected with us. So this particular page is really a collection of all of those technical opportunities that are customer facing, that have that sort of customer piece, whether it's more of a UX focus or product design focus, or of course our worldwide commercial operations team. So go ahead and check that out. There, you'll be able to connect with us, which means that we'll be able to get to know a little bit more about you and connect you with the opportunities and invite you to upcoming events, whether it's an ACE Your interview session or a little more detailed panel we have with former interns. All of those you'll be able to sign up for and check out in there. Again, some eventual events will be there, and all of the roles will be featured as well. Another piece is you'll actually get to know the recruiters for each one of these roles, so you can actually have a connection point with us as well. I'm going to
So
leave this up
Ben,
for just one more second.
there's a question about people attending today. Is there a way for them to clarify that they attended the session? I think we want to capture that as well. So what's the best way for us to do that? Either
Sure,
on
it'd be
our
through this
end or on
page.
their end? From this
Mhm.
page?
It'd be through this page, yes. And then what'll happen is, especially if you do it today, we'll be able to register you as today, and we'll credit you back to the session.
Perfect.
And then, of course, when we're looking at resumes, we also tag you so we know that when you apply, you'll be put up to the top of the list of people who are considered. So always a good idea. Great. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what happens when you apply and what happens throughout the process. So with this particular timeline, we do require you to apply online. So even if you reach out to us, even if you register on the site, you have to also apply to the role itself. This is how we sort of course, get the information, but also, from a compliance standpoint, it kind of is what it is, right? So there's that. Usually within about 5 days or so, we will review resumes. And then if selected, you may or may not receive an online assessment. Our internships do not receive online assessments. Some of our full-time roles do. So just know that. These online assessments, you'll have 5 days to complete. They are directly related to the role that you're applying for. And we will have some upcoming events where it'll help you sort of prepare for both the interview and the online assessment. Let's say you go through the online assessment. The next step is the interview invite. We'll reach out to you with some appropriate times, and then you can select the one that works best for you, and we'll make sure our interviewers are ready to go. And then you'll have the virtual interviews themselves. All interviews are comprised of 2 different components. So there is a technical skill set. So there will be some technical questions where you'll be asked to talk through how you might approach a problem, or how you might solve for a particular variable. And then there are leadership principles questions. So if you go back to that leadership principle slide, you'll see that there will be questions related to each one of those. And we, expect you to use a particular method or an idea of responding to those. If you do have, what I'm going to drop in the chat is a link to what we call the STAR method. It's a great way to prepare and practice ahead of your interviews to really get that effective answer to the question. So I'll drop that in the chat afterwards. And then lastly, we do get back to you within 5 days of your final interview. Great. So at this point, I want to sort of pause here, throw it back over to Darrell.
Thanks so much, Ben, for that valuable info. We certainly hope folks will take advantage of the link and go now and input your information. It's always better to sort of, seek opportunity, and who knows sort of where the future lands. In the meantime, we want to be respectful of time, but are there any questions that anyone has? If you have any questions, go ahead and post it in the chat. And while we wait for folks, maybe we can sort of do one round robin of just words of encouragement or gems. I always like to end panels that way. So maybe we can start with Tina, just words of wisdom or just any general advice.
No advice, but I'm really excited, and I hope people would apply and consider us. I think Grishma made a really good point. There are statistics showing that women tend to not apply because you don't think you are 100% qualified. I definitely want to encourage people to, set that aside. I see myself doing that, myself, but just having that awareness, know that you all have, you're all very qualified. We would love to have you at Amazon or AWS. So definitely apply.
Fantastic.
Awesome. I'm happy to go next. One question I often get from students is, how do I make myself stand out in my application, etc.? One thing I really recommend that you do is, if you haven't already, have one file of maybe your resume, and mine is like 4 pages long at this point. Anytime you do anything, anytime you do a project, you learn a new technology or skill, just throw it on there. Don't worry about it right away. And then when you're applying to a job, look at that job description really closely. Look at the basic qualifications, the preferred qualifications, and then save as your resume and really get it down to the most relevant skills for that particular job and submit that customized resume for that job. One, it makes you feel really more confident as you apply that, yes, I do got this. I do have this. Two, it really helps me as a recruiter go, dang, like, that's great. That's someone who's perfect for this role. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to find people who are really great fits for this particular role.
And I would just say, your network is really your net worth. And so anytime that you attend events like this, you get to meet individuals, make sure that you continue to sort of reach out. LinkedIn is a great platform for that. All of my colleagues are on LinkedIn, so feel free to add any of us sort of following this session. And that's just general great advice sort of moving forward. And the last words to the star, the proud alumna.
Darrell, you totally took mine. I was going to say the same thing, but it really is something that I wish that I did more of when I was kind of applying for roles or trying to find a full-time role for after college. I really wish I made better use of my resources and leveraged people around me, whether that's my peers, whether that's recruiters that I was talking to. These people are all here to help you. And if people reach out to me all the time on LinkedIn that they're applying for a role in solutions architecture, and you're going to find that a lot of people that work at AWS are super open to talking to you about the role, super open to telling you what their experience has been. So leverage your resources, leverage people that maybe aren't in your network yet, make them a part of your network, and then leverage them. I wish I did more of that for sure.
Fantastic. Well, I didn't see any questions come in. I know that folks may have them, may be afraid to ask, but again, feel free to follow up and with any of us on LinkedIn. If you have any additional questions, please ensure that you go to the link and register today. We'd love to have you join our process, and ultimately we'd love to have you leading the session next year as a proud alum of this great institution. Thank you so much for joining us today at Life at Amazon. We certainly hope that this provided you a little bit more clarity, and we look forward to continuing to partner from here on out. This is a very important event. Best of luck with the hackathon. I know that there's a little bit more time left before the closing ceremony, and we're going to go to the next session. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, everyone.